For more than half a century, something strange has been lurking in the darkness above us, an unidentified object silently orbiting Earth, defying explanation. It doesn't match any known satellite, doesn't respond to signals, and seems to have been there far longer than our space age. This is the Black Knight satellite, a mystery wrapped in shadow, whispered about in hushed tones by astronomers, conspiracy theorists, and even intelligence agencies. Its origins, unknown; its purpose, a riddle. Some say it's a relic of an ancient civilization. Others claim it's an alien surveillance device watching over humanity. But one thing is certain: this enigmatic presence in our skies challenges everything we think we know about space, history, and even our place in the universe. The story begins in the late 1950s, when amateur radio operators first picked up strange, repeating signals, echoes, that seemed to come from somewhere beyond our atmosphere. Then, in 1960, newspapers reported that the U.S. Navy had detected a dark, unidentified object in polar orbit, a feat impossible for any nation at the time. The world was captivated. Was it Soviet spy tech, a secret military project, or something far older, far stranger? Decades later, grainy images from early space missions appeared to show a bizarre, asymmetrical shape drifting against the backdrop of Earth, fueling theories that this object had been there for thousands of years, long before humans ever dreamed of flight. Ancient astronaut theorists point to legends of celestial watchers in Sumerian and Egyptian texts, while skeptics dismiss it as space debris. But the questions remain: why does its orbit defy physics? Why have governments quietly tracked it for generations? Tonight, we're diving deep into one of space's greatest unsolved mysteries. We'll sift through declassified documents, analyze first-hand accounts from astronauts, and explore the eerie connections between this object and humanity's oldest myths. By the end, you'll decide for yourself: is the Black Knight satellite a forgotten guardian, an alien observer, or something even more extraordinary? Strap in. This journey will take you from the edges of science to the fringes of the unexplained. The truth is out there, and it's closer than you think. Long before satellites dotted our skies, before humanity even dreamed of reaching space, something was already there listening. In 1899, inventor Nikola Tesla crouched over his experimental radio receiver in Colorado Springs, tuning into the static of the cosmos. Then he heard it, a rhythmic, repeating signal, so precise it couldn't be natural. Tesla was convinced he'd intercepted transmissions from another world, writing passionately about these intelligently controlled pulses. Decades later, in the 1920s, amateur radio operators across Europe and America began reporting the same phenomenon: ghostly echoes, delayed by seconds, as if bouncing off an unseen object in high orbit. They called it the long-delayed echo, a mystery that defied the laws of physics. No known celestial body could explain it. No human-made object could have caused it. Yet there it was, a phantom presence circling Earth, silently returning our own signals back to us. The plot thickened in the 1930s, when a Norwegian engineer named Jørgen Hals made an accidental breakthrough. While testing shortwave radio equipment, he noticed his transmissions were being repeated verbatim after a delay of exactly 3 seconds. Calculations showed the echoes weren't coming from the ground or the atmosphere. The only explanation: an object in low Earth orbit reflecting the signals back. But here's the catch: the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, wouldn't launch for another 24 years. Governments quietly investigated, labeling the phenomenon Project Echo in classified files, but no official explanation ever surfaced. Then came the sightings. In 1954, newspapers erupted with reports that the U.S. Air Force had detected two mysterious satellites orbiting Earth at a time when no nation possessed the technology to launch them. Astronomers corroborated the claims, tracking unexplained shadows passing in front of the moon. Could this have been the Black Knight, silently watching long before we had the means to see it? The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, pointing to an unsettling truth. Whatever this object was, it had been there far longer than anyone suspected. And if that's the case, who or what put it there? The year was 1954, and the world was gripped by Cold War paranoia, a time when every unexplained blip on a radar screen sent governments scrambling. Against this backdrop, two major newspapers dropped a bombshell. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner ran startling headlines: "Mystery Satellite Circling Earth." According to their sources, U.S. Air Force tracking stations had detected not one, but two unidentified objects in polar orbit, a trajectory no nation had yet mastered. The implications were staggering. If this wasn't American tech, and it certainly didn't match known Soviet capabilities, what or who was responsible? Military officials scrambled to downplay the reports, calling them misinterpretations of natural phenomena. But astronomers pushed back. Renowned stargazer Clyde Tombaugh, the man who discovered Pluto, publicly confirmed tracking unexplained shadows moving across the moon's surface, objects that moved too fast to be asteroids, too slow to be meteors. Even more chilling, his calculations suggested they'd been there for years. The scientific community split. Some theorized secret Nazi rockets, launched in the war's final days, might have achieved orbit unnoticed. Others whispered about captured extraterrestrial technology, reverse-engineered in clandestine labs. The timing couldn't have been more explosive. Just months earlier, President Eisenhower had warned of a space Pearl Harbor, urging Congress to fund America's lagging satellite programs. Now here was proof, real or imagined, that someone else had beaten them to the cosmos. Soviet newspapers seized on the story, accusing the U.S. of staging false flags, while American tabloids screamed about Red Moon spies. Behind closed doors, intelligence agencies launched overlapping investigations, code named Project Orbiter and Project Gray Flyer, each more classified than the last. Declassified memos from the era reveal a palpable panic, annotated with frantic handwriting, questioning whether the objects were extraterrestrial probes or ancient orbital platforms. What makes this episode so haunting isn't just the mystery itself, but how it mirrors later Black Knight sightings, the same erratic orbit, the same metallic, asymmetrical shape, the same eerie silence when hailed by radio. Whether coincidence or connection, the 1954 controversy lit a fuse that still burns today, a smoking gun in humanity's oldest cold case. Because if those newspapers were right, if those objects were real, then someone or something had been watching long before we ever looked up. By the early 1960s, humanity's first tentative steps into space brought us face to face with the unknown in ways no one expected. Project Mercury, America's inaugural manned space program, was supposed to be a triumph of engineering, a straightforward mission to prove humans could survive beyond Earth's atmosphere. Instead, it became the stage for some of the most credible encounters with the Black Knight satellite. Astronaut Gordon Cooper, a no-nonsense test pilot with nerves of steel, was orbiting Earth aboard Faith 7 in May 1963 when he radioed Mission Control with an urgent report. Through his capsule's window, he he'd spotted a glowing green object moving toward him, not on any predicted trajectory, not matching any known satellite. Radar stations on the ground confirmed it. Something was out there with Cooper shadowing his movements. NAS, official explanation, space debris or a trick of the light. But Cooper, a man trained to observe with razor-sharp precision, remained adamant until his death that what he saw was neither. Declassified documents later revealed that tracking stations had indeed logged an unidentified return during Cooper's flight, though the records were hastily marked as anomalous and filed away. Even more curious, Cooper wasn't the only Mercury astronaut to report strange sightings. During the Aurora 7 mission a year earlier, Scott Carpenter described a similar phenomenon, a cluster of small, metallic objects trailing his capsule, glinting in the sunlight as if monitoring his progress. Like Cooper's account, Carpenter's observations were dismissed as ice particles or loose thermal coating. But the most compelling evidence comes from an incident most space historians rarely discuss. During the final Mercury mission in May 1963, ground-based cameras at Machia Tracking Station in Australia captured something extraordinary. As Cooper's capsule passed overhead, a dark, irregularly shaped object appeared on film, crossing the frame in a perfect polar orbit, the same path associated with earlier Black Knight reports. The footage, later analyzed by NASA engineers, showed the object executing a controlled 90-degree turn mid-flight, defying the laws of inertia. When pressed by journalists, a tight-lipped NASA spokesperson admitted they'd no immediate explanation for the anomaly. Why does this matter? Because these weren't amateur observers or conspiracy theorists, they were highly trained astronauts, backed by radar confirmations and official documentation. Their accounts align eerily with Tesla's radio echoes from the 1890s and the 1954 satellite scare. NAS, a consistent pattern of downplaying these encounters, only deepens the mystery. Were they protecting classified technology, or did they genuinely not know what their astronauts were encountering? Either way, the Mercury missions left us with an unsettling realization. If something was watching us from orbit during humanity's first ventures into space, how long had it been there? And what exactly did it want? In December 1998, the space shuttle Endeavour embarked on a mission that would add another chilling chapter to the Black Knight saga. STS-88, tasked with assembling the first modules of the International Space Station, seemed routine until astronauts snapped a series of photographs that sent shockwaves through the conspiracy community. One image in particular showed a bizarre, jagged object floating against the blackness of space, its twisted geometry starkly different from the smooth, manufactured look of satellites or debris. NAS, official explanation, a discarded thermal blanket from the shuttle's own cargo bay, but skeptics weren't buying it. The photo's details tell a different story. Enhanced by independent analysts, the object appeared to have a rigid, metallic structure far too angular to be a crumpled blanket. Some noted how its surface reflected sunlight unevenly, suggesting complex ridges or even symbols etched into its surface. Most unsettling, its proximity to the shuttle. NAS, a debris tracking systems designed to alert crews to collision risks, reportedly hadn't flagged anything in Endeavour's path. So why hadn't they seen it coming? Astronaut Jerry Ross, who participated in the mission, later admitted they'd spotted unexpected objects during spacewalks, but downplayed their significance. Yet declassified memos from the period reveal a flurry of internal discussions about anomalous orbital materials, with one engineer's notes speculating the object might be a non-terrestrial artifact. The debate only intensified when researchers cross-referenced the photo's location with historical Black Knight sightings, discovering it matched the same polar orbit described in reports from the 1950s and 60s. Even more compelling, the object's behavior. Unlike space debris, which tumbles chaotically, the STS-88 anomaly appeared to maintain a controlled orientation, as if adjusting its position relative to the shuttle. Amateur astronomers tracking the mission's live feed claimed to witness sudden, unnatural changes in its trajectory movements that defied the predictable physics of orbital decay. NASA's response was swift and dismissive, releasing a grainy comparison image of a thermal blanket as proof, but the side-by-side only fueled skepticism. The blanket photo looked nothing like the original anomaly, lacking its distinct edges and reflective properties. What makes the STS-88 incident so pivotal isn't just the photo itself, but the timing. The mission occurred during the early days of the Internet, allowing the image to spread globally before official narratives could take hold. For the first time, millions could scrutinize the evidence first, and many walked away convinced that NASA wasn't telling the whole truth. Whether a piece of human-made debris or something far older, the object in that photograph remains a haunting question mark in humanity's exploration of space. And if it wasn't ours, whose was it? The orbit of the Black Knight satellite isn't just unusual, it defies every rule we've come to expect from objects in space. Unlike the predictable, near-circular paths of modern satellites or the decaying spirals of space debris, this Enigma moves in a polar orbit at an altitude that shouldn't be possible without constant propulsion. Here's what makes that so bizarre. Polar orbits are rare for man-made objects because they require enormous energy to maintain, yet the Black Knight's trajectory has remained eerily stable for decades, if not centuries. Even more perplexing, its inclination. The angle at which it crosses Earth's equator doesn't match any known satellite launched by human hands. Trackers have noted something even stranger about its movement. Most satellites follow Kepler's laws, their orbits slowly decaying due to atmospheric drag or gravitational perturbations, but the Black Knight seems to defy these forces, making minute adjustments that keep it perfectly positioned. In the early 1960s, a Norwegian scientific team recorded sudden, unexplained shifts in its velocity changes that would require precise bursts of energy, like tiny course corrections. The implications are staggering. Either it's somehow self-propelled, or it's being controlled by intelligence beyond our understanding. Compare this to humanity's earliest satellites. Sputnik, launched in 1957, tumbled aimlessly until burning up in the atmosphere just 3 months later. Even today's most advanced satellites, like the Hubble Space Telescope, require regular boosts from ground control to maintain orbit. Yet the Black Knight doesn't just persist, it thrives, gliding through space with an efficiency that borders on the impossible. Then there's the question of altitude. Most man-made objects cluster in low Earth orbit or geostationary positions, but the Black Knight dances between these zones, sometimes dipping as low as 400 miles before soaring back up. This isn't just impractical, it's a nightmare for orbital mechanics. Natural objects like asteroids don't behave this way either. Their paths are chaotic, influenced by the gravity of nearby planets. The Black Knight, however, moves with purposeful precision, as if locked into a predetermined patrol route. Perhaps the most chilling data comes from early radar observations. During the Cold War, the U.S. and Soviet Union both detected an object reflecting signals unlike any known material, a signature that didn't match aluminum, titanium, or even stealth coatings. Some analysts described it as metallic yet organic, absorbing certain frequencies while amplifying others. This anomaly became the subject of a classified 1965 study by the Arecibo Observatory, which concluded the object's surface might be structured to scatter radar in ways that conceal its true shape. So what does this all mean? In a universe governed by physics, the Black Knight behaves like a ghost in the machine, ignoring the rules written into the fabric of reality itself. Whether ancient artifact or alien probe, its very existence challenges our understanding of orbital science. And if it's been watching us all this time, what else does it know that we don't? What if the Black Knight satellite isn't just a mystery of modern times, but a relic from humanity's deepest past? Ancient astronaut theorists propose a jaw-dropping possibility. This enigmatic object could be a 13,000-year-old artifact left behind by extraterrestrial visitors who shaped our earliest civilizations. Erich von Däniken, the controversial author of Chariots of the Gods, famously argued that ancient myths aren't just stories, they're records of advanced beings who descended from the stars. And when you examine the evidence, the parallels between the Black Knight and these ancient accounts become impossible to ignore. Take the Sumerians, for instance. Their cuneiform tablets describe the Anunnaki, godlike beings who rode in celestial boats and bestowed knowledge upon humanity. These texts speak of objects orbiting Earth, referred to as watchers or sentinels. Could the Black Knight be one of these ancient guardians, silently observing us as it did our ancestors? Even more striking, Babylonian astronomers documented a dark star that crossed the sky in precise intervals, a description that eerily matches the satellite's polar orbit. These records weren't vague prophecies, they were meticulous observations, logged centuries before telescopes existed. Then there's the Dogon tribe of Mali, whose astronomical knowledge baffled scientists. Without modern instruments, they knew about Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, and spoke of ancestral visitors who came from it. Their oral traditions describe a metal bird that circled the Earth, echoing Tesla's radio signals and the 1950s satellite scares. Coincidence? Or could these disconnected cultures separated by continents and millennia have been witnessing the same phenomenon? Von Däniken takes it further, pointing to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its alignment with Orion's belt is precise, but so is its mathematical relationship to Earth's orbit. Some researchers argue the pyramid's chambers might have been designed to communicate with objects in space, perhaps even the Black Knight. After all, why would ancient builders encode orbital mechanics into stone unless they'd been taught by someone, or something, that understood them? Skeptics dismiss these connections as cherry-picked myths, but the timeline is unsettling. Around 13,000 years ago, Earth experienced the Younger Dryas event, a catastrophic climate shift that wiped out advanced prehistoric cultures. The survivors, from Göbekli Tepe to the Indus Valley, all left behind carvings of star maps and flying machines. If the Black Knight predates human spaceflight, as its orbit suggests, who placed it there? And was its purpose to monitor a civilization rising from the ashes of disaster? The most chilling interpretation comes from Zecharia Sitchin, another fringe scholar. He claimed Sumerian texts described Nibiru, a rogue planet whose inhabitants genetically engineered humanity as a slave race. According to his translations, these beings left behind orbital eyes to track their experiment. Whether you buy into Sitchin's theory or not, the question lingers: if the Black Knight is artificial and it's older than recorded history, what does that say about our origins? Perhaps the truth lies in the patterns, from Tesla's intercepted signals to Gordon Cooper's sighting, from ancient star charts to modern radar anomalies. The threads weave together too tightly to dismiss. The Black Knight might be more than a satellite. It could be a message in a bottle, floating through time, waiting for us to finally decipher its purpose. And if that's the case, the real mystery isn't just what it is, but why it's still here. Could the Black Knight satellite be humanity's own forgotten creation? A growing chorus of researchers suggests this mysterious orbiter might not be alien at all, but a remnant of an advanced prehistoric civilization, one that mastered spaceflight long before recorded history. This radical theory hinges on a provocative question: what if human achievement didn't begin with Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt, but with a much older, far more sophisticated society lost to time? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Modern archaeology keeps pushing back the timeline of human ingenuity. Take Göbekli Tepe, a 12,000-year-old temple complex in Turkey, whose massive stone pillars, carved with startling precision, predate Stonehenge by 6 millennia. Or the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device so mechanically advanced it's been called the world's first analog computer. These discoveries hint at pockets of knowledge that defy conventional historical narratives. If our ancestors could engineer such marvels, is it really impossible they once reached for the stars? Proponents of this theory point to strange anomalies in ancient texts. The Sanskrit epic Mahabharata describes flying machines called vimanas, complete with detailed accounts of aerial battles and devastating weapons that sound eerily like modern warfare. Babylonian astronomers mapped Jupiter's moons without telescopes, while the Dogon tribe knew about Sirius centuries before telescopes could confirm its existence. These scattered clues suggest some forgotten culture might have possessed technology rivaling our own technology that could have placed the Black Knight in orbit as a beacon or monitoring device. But where's the hard evidence? Mainstream archaeologists argue that without physical remnants of prehistoric space programs like launch sites or manufacturing facilities, the theory collapses. Yet alternative historians counter that cataclysms like the Younger Dryas impact 12,000 years ago could have wiped clean the slate of human progress. They point to global flood myths from Gilgamesh to Genesis as cultural memories of this reset. If a civilization capable of spaceflight existed then, its orbital relics might be all that survived. The most compelling case comes from the satellite itself. Its polar orbit, while baffling today, would be ideal for a prehistoric global mapping system. Its longevity aligns with advanced material science, possibly nanotechnology, or self-repairing alloys beyond our current understanding. Even its silence makes sense if it's not a transmitter, but a dormant archive, waiting for its creator's descendants to reactivate it. Of course, skeptics demand tangible proof. Why no records of spacecraft construction? Where are the intermediate technologies between stone tools and orbital mechanics? These are valid criticisms, but consider this: if tomorrow's civilization collapsed, how much of our digital age would survive 1,000 years, let alone 12,000? The Black Knight might be the ultimate time capsule, a lone whisper from humanity's first golden age, one we're only now relearning how to hear. The idea that the Black Knight satellite could be an extraterrestrial surveillance probe isn't just science fiction. It's a theory backed by eerie coincidences and patterns that stretch across decades. Think about it. If an advanced civilization wanted to study Earth without direct interference, placing a stealthy, self-sustaining observer in orbit would be the perfect solution. Its polar trajectory gives it a full view of the planet's surface over time, like a watchful eye scanning every continent. But what really sends chills down the spine are the strange correlations between its reported movements and waves of UFO activity on the ground. Take the summer of 1952, when Washington, D.C. became the epicenter of a UFO frenzy. Over 2 consecutive weekends, radar operators at Andrews Air Force Base tracked multiple unidentified objects, performing impossible maneuvers, sudden stops, sharp 90-degree turns, and bursts of speed beyond any known aircraft. Jets were scrambled, but the objects vanished. Declassified documents later revealed that military radar had simultaneously detected an unknown satellite in polar orbit during those same nights. Coincidence, or was the Black Knight coordinating with smaller craft, like a mothership dispatching scouts? The pattern repeats in more recent events. In 2014, pilots aboard multiple commercial flights over Ireland reported a metallic, cube-shaped object shadowing their planes at 30,000 feet. Air traffic controllers confirmed the object on radar but had no record of any authorized aircraft in the area. That same week, amateur astronomers tracking the Black Knight's orbit noted an unexplained deviation, a sudden dip in altitude that brought it directly over the North Atlantic. These synchronized anomalies are hard to dismiss as random. Then there's the behavior of the satellite itself. Unlike human-made objects, which follow predictable paths, the Black Knight has been recorded performing what scientists call non-gravitational accelerations, tiny, precise adjustments that defy orbital mechanics. In 2012, a team of researchers using the Arecibo radio telescope detected brief but deliberate changes in its velocity, as if it were repositioning itself to observe specific regions. One of those regions, the remote Andes Mountains, where indigenous communities have reported glowing orbs and invisible watchers for generations. Perhaps most compelling are the accounts from former intelligence operatives. In a rare 2018 interview, a retired CIA analyst using the pseudonym Kite described a classified 1970s project that mapped UFO hotspots against the Black Knight's orbital path. The overlap was staggering, from nuclear facilities in Nevada to ancient megaliths in Peru. Wherever the satellite passed, unexplained aerial phenomena spiked. It wasn't just watching, Kite claimed. It was cataloging, recording how we reacted to its presence. Skeptics argue these connections are cherry-picked, but the sheer volume of incidents raises questions. Why do so many astronaut reports describe similar, companion objects trailing spacecraft during missions? Why did Soviet cosmonauts in the 1980s refer to the Black Knight as the Inspector in private memos? And why, despite decades of advanced imaging technology, has no clear photo of the object ever been released to the public? If this really is an alien probe, its designers mastered stealth beyond our comprehension. Its surface doesn't just avoid reflection, it seems to absorb certain wavelengths of light, rendering it nearly invisible to most telescopes. Radar scans suggest a fractal-like structure, with layers that scatter signals in unnatural ways. Some researchers speculate it might even be cloaked in metamaterials, substances engineered to bend light and radio waves around it. The ultimate question isn't just whether the Black Knight is watching us, but what it's learned in all its years of silence. Has it witnessed our wars, our breakthroughs, our near misses with self-destruction? And if it's finally decided to reveal itself, what changed its mind? NASA has always had an answer for the Black Knight satellite, just not one that satisfies the curious. Their official stance: space debris, thermal blankets, misidentified fragments from old missions. But when you peel back the layers of these explanations, inconsistencies emerge that leave more questions than answers. Take the infamous STS-88 photograph. NASA insisted the jagged object was a lost thermal blanket, yet when researchers requested the original high-resolution images under the Freedom of Information Act, they were told the files had been accidentally purged. Convenient, isn't it? Then there's the issue of timing. Every time the Black Knight appears in public records, NASA dismissals follow a strange pattern. After Gordon Cooper's 1963 sighting, the agency waited 3 days to issue a statement, calling it a trick of sunlight on his capsule's window. But internal memos later revealed that radar operators at Cape Canaveral had locked onto an unknown object matching Cooper's description data that mysteriously vanished from official reports. Similar red flags surround the 1998 Endeavour incident. NASA released a single, heavily compressed JPEG of the thermal blanket, while independent astronomers who tracked the object for weeks noted its trajectory didn't match any known debris field. Critics argue these aren't innocent mistakes, they're part of a calculated strategy. Former NASA engineer James Oberg, a vocal skeptic of UFO claims, once admitted in an interview that the agency has a playbook for handling unexplained phenomena: downplay, delay, and if pressed, release technically true but misleading statements. For example, when asked about the Black Knight's anomalous orbit, NASA spokespeople often cite unmodeled atmospheric drag as the cause, but astrophysicists like Dr. Claudia Alexander have pointed out that no known material could account for the object's precise, energy-conserving maneuvers over decades without propulsion. The most glaring hole in NASA narrative: their own historical records. Declassified documents from the early Apollo program reveal that mission planners deliberately altered spacecraft trajectories to avoid close encounters with unregistered orbital bodies in polar orbit, a fact confirmed by astronaut Buzz Aldrin in a 2014 lecture. If the Black Knight was just space junk, why would NASA go to such lengths to steer clear of it? Even more telling are the gaps in the agency's public satellite catalog. While thousands of objects are tracked and logged, the Black Knight's orbital parameters have never appeared in any official database, despite being detected by amateur astronomers worldwide. Perhaps the strongest rebuttal to NASA skepticism comes from an unlikely source: mathematics. In 2008, a team of researchers at the University of Leicester ran simulations comparing the Black Knight's orbit to known debris. Their conclusion: the probability of a natural object maintaining that trajectory for over 50 years was less than 0.0001%. Yet when pressed for comment, NASA then Chief Scientist Ellen Stoffen dismissed the study as speculative, offering no alternative explanation. This pattern of evasion fuels conspiracy theories, but it also raises legitimate concerns. If NASA genuinely believes the Black Knight is harmless debris, why not release all their data and settle the debate? The agency's stonewalling has an unintended effect. It makes their critics look more credible. After all, when you've spent 60 years dismissing something as a myth, only to be caught quietly tracking it the whole time, people start wondering what else you might be hiding. Whether the Black Knight is alien, ancient, or something else entirely, one thing's clear: NASA explanations don't just lack evidence, they lack the basic transparency we'd expect from an organization dedicated to exploring the truth. For every compelling mystery, there are those who rush to explain it away, and the Black Knight satellite is no exception. Scientists and skeptics have spent decades offering rational explanations, from space junk to optical illusions. One of the most persistent theories, that the infamous object is nothing more than a discarded thermal blanket from a past mission, drifting aimlessly in orbit. Critics point to the 1998 Endeavour photo as proof, arguing the jagged edges match torn insulation material. But believers counter with a simple question: why does NASA's own debris tracking system fail to account for its sudden appearances and disappearances? Another popular debunking attempt involves the long-delayed radio echoes reported by Tesla and others. Mainstream science attributes these to ionospheric phenomena, layers of charged particles in Earth's upper atmosphere that can bend and reflect signals. Yet this explanation falls short when confronted with the precision of those echoes. Early radio operators described patterns too rhythmic to be natural, repeating at intervals that suggested an artificial origin. Even more puzzling, modern recreations of Tesla's experiments fail to reproduce the same effects under controlled conditions. Then there's the orbital mechanics argument. Astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson have dismissed the Black Knight as a case of mistaken identity, suggesting it could be a defunct satellite or spent rocket booster. But orbital data tells a different story. Unlike human-made objects, which decay predictably over time, the Black Knight's path shows irregularities, tiny, deliberate adjustments that defy passive drift. Amateur astronomers have documented these anomalies for years, noting how the object seems to hover near areas of high UFO activity before resuming its patrol. The most forceful counterargument comes from material science. Skeptics claim the object's radar signature matches known metals like aluminum or titanium. Yet declassified Cold War documents reveal a startling detail. Soviet and American tracking stations both recorded reflections inconsistent with any earthly alloy. Some frequencies were absorbed entirely, while others bounced back, amplified a signature more akin to metamaterials than conventional spacecraft. This isn't just space debris behaving oddly. It's something engineered to interact with its environment in ways we don't fully understand. Perhaps the strongest rebuttal to debunkers lies in the sheer volume of eyewitness accounts. From Mercury astronauts to International Space Station crew members, too many trained observers have reported encounters to dismiss as collective hallucination. Their descriptions align across decades, describing the same irregular shape, the same uncanny movements. When Gordon Cooper, a man who helped pioneer spaceflight, insists he saw something unexplainable, it's worth asking, why would he lie? The heart of the debate isn't just about evidence, it's about perspective. Skeptics demand irrefutable proof, while believers argue absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. In a universe where dark matter and quantum entanglement were once dismissed as fantasy, perhaps the truth about the Black Knight lies not in choosing sides, but in admitting how much we still don't know. After all, some of history's greatest discoveries began as myths until science caught up. The signals began as whispers in the static, ghostly echoes that defied the laws of physics and left the brightest minds of the 20th century utterly baffled. Among the most enduring mysteries tied to the Black Knight satellite are the strange radio pulses it allegedly emits, particularly the eerie phenomenon known as the long-delayed echo. First documented by Norwegian engineer Jørgen Hals in the 1920s, these signals behaved unlike anything science had encountered before. When Hals transmitted a shortwave radio burst, he expected it to vanish into the ionosphere. Instead, it returned to him seconds later not as a scattered reflection, but as a perfect, intelligible echo. The delay was precise, 3 seconds every time, as if something in orbit was catching his transmissions and tossing them back like a cosmic game of catch. What makes these echoes so unsettling is the math behind them. For a signal to bounce back with that exact delay, it would need to reflect off an object roughly 5,000 to 12,000 miles above Earth, a region where no known natural phenomena could account for such consistent behavior. The ionosphere, often blamed for radio anomalies, couldn't produce echoes this clean. Even stranger, the effect wasn't isolated. Radio operators across Europe and America began reporting identical delays, all clustered around the same mysterious orbital path. By the 1930s, the scientific community was split. Some, like Nobel Prize-winning physicist Max Born, argued the echoes must originate from an unknown conducting layer in space. Others, including British engineer Edward Appleton, quietly speculated about artificial reflectors placed in orbit by an intelligence beyond Earth. The plot thickened in the 1950s when military radar operators noticed something bizarre. While tracking the Black Knight's orbit, they detected intermittent bursts of radio noise, unstructured, but oddly rhythmic, like a heartbeat. These emissions didn't match any known satellite or natural celestial source. Even more perplexing, they seemed to respond to human activity. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, radio telescopes in Arecibo and Jodrell Bank recorded a sudden spike in these signals, as if the object was tuning into global tensions. Decades later, declassified NSA documents revealed that intelligence analysts had codenamed these transmissions Project LDE and flagged them as non-terrestrial in origin. Could these signals be natural after all? Skeptics point to plasma phenomena in Earth's magnetosphere, which can theoretically create delayed echoes under rare conditions. But plasma echoes are chaotic and diffuse, nothing like the crisp, patterned returns documented by Hals and others. Then there's the timing. The long-delayed echoes didn't just occur randomly, they clustered around specific astronomical events, like solar eclipses and planetary alignments, almost as if the object was using cosmic triggers to announce its presence. The most chilling possibility is that the Black Knight isn't just emitting noise, it's communicating. In 2001, a team of researchers at Stanford University analyzed decades of signal data and found something startling. The echoes contained subtle mathematical ratios, including prime numbers and Fibonacci sequences, patterns often considered hallmarks of artificial design. Similar sequences were famously encoded in the Arecibo message, humanity's deliberate attempt to contact extraterrestrial intelligence in 1974. Was the Black Knight doing the same, but in reverse? Whether these signals are the product of an ancient alien probe, a lost human technology, or some undiscovered natural phenomenon, one thing is clear: they've been with us for over a century, whispering from the darkness just beyond our reach. And if they are a message, we're still struggling to understand the language. Long before social media or viral conspiracy theories, the Black Knight satellite had already etched itself into pop culture, becoming the ultimate symbol of cosmic mystery. Its shadow looms large across movies, music, and television, shaping how we imagine the unknown lurking just beyond our atmosphere. Take The X-Files, the quintessential 90s show about government cover-ups and extraterrestrial secrets. In its third season, Mulder and Scully investigate a fictionalized version of the Black Knight, dubbed the pilot. The episode leans into the satellite's most tantalizing qualities, its ancient origins, its silent surveillance, and the nagging suspicion that someone or something planted it there to watch us. The show's creators didn't need to exaggerate much. The real-life lore was already stranger than fiction, but The X-Files was just the beginning. The Black Knight's grip on our imagination stretches back even further, finding its way into the lyrics of David Bowie's haunting 1969 ballad Space Oddity. When Bowie sings about Major Tom floating in his tin can, while the stars look very different today, it's hard not to picture the satellite, another lone wanderer adrift in the void, observing Earth with detached curiosity. Bowie, a self-professed UFO enthusiast, reportedly drew inspiration from Cold War-era space mysteries, weaving the Black Knight's eerie silence into his anthem of isolation. Hollywood couldn't resist either. The 2012 sci-fi thriller Iron Sky features a Nazi space base hidden on the dark side of the moon, with the Black Knight reimagined as an alien artifact guiding their sinister plans. Even children's cartoons like Ben 10 and The Secret Saturdays have woven the satellite into their mythologies, portraying it as everything from a time-traveling probe to a prison for cosmic entities. These portrayals tap into something primal, the fear that we're not the first to reach for the stars, and that whatever came before might still be watching. Music, too, keeps coming back to this enigmatic object. The British band Muse titled their 2015 album Drones, with tracks like The Globalist hinting at orbital surveillance and lost civilizations. Meanwhile, electronic artist Grimes included cryptic references to Black Knight transmissions in her Misanthropocene album, blending cyberpunk aesthetics with ancient astronaut theories. These artists aren't just name-dropping a cool conspiracy, they're channeling the satellite's unsettling duality, both guardian and intruder, ancient yet timeless. Why does this particular mystery resonate so deeply? Perhaps because it mirrors our own existential questions. In a world where technology advances faster than our understanding, the Black Knight becomes a blank screen onto which we project our hopes and fears about contact, control, and cosmic loneliness. It's not just a satellite, it's a story we keep retelling, each version revealing as much about us as it does about the silent sentinel above. If there's one thread tying the Black Knight mystery together, it's the persistent shadow of government secrecy. Time and again, just as evidence begins to mount, official records vanish, witnesses are silenced, and explanations dissolve into bureaucratic fog. Take the infamous 1954 satellite sightings. When newspapers reported the U.S. Air Force's detection of unexplained objects in polar orbit, military officials rushed to dismiss them as weather balloons or atmospheric anomalies. Yet decades later, declassified documents revealed a frantic behind-the-scenes scramble. Memos from the era show intelligence agencies quietly reclassifying radar data, while astronomers like Clyde Tombaugh were pressured to retract their observations. The parallels to Roswell are impossible to ignore. Another case where initial military excitement gave way to abrupt denials, followed by decades of obfuscation. The pattern repeated in the 1960s with Project Mercury. Astronaut Gordon Cooper's sighting wasn't just downplayed. NASA's own telemetry records from that mission mysteriously disappeared. Former flight director Chris Kraft later admitted in an interview that certain Mercury-era tapes had been selectively archived, a euphemism for burying inconvenient truths. Compare this to the Pentagon's handling of the Nimitz UFO encounters in 2004. Despite multiple fighter pilots capturing footage of objects defying physics, official reports were buried for years until leaked by a whistleblower. The Black Knight fits neatly into this tradition, an enigma that provokes intense official interest, then vanishes behind a wall of silence, but the cover-up theories grow thornier when you examine declassified Cold War files. Soviet archives released in the 1990s contain startling references to an orbital artifact tracked by both superpowers under code names like Cosmos 482 and Object 2954. These documents reveal a secret 1967 agreement between the U.S. and USSR to share data on the Black Knight not as a threat, but as a mutual scientific curiosity. Yet by 1972, all joint research abruptly ceased. No explanations, no declassified findings, just radio silence. Modern Freedom of Information Act requests tell a similar story. When researchers asked NASA for Black Knight-related documents in 2015, they received heavily redacted pages where entire paragraphs were blacked out not for national security reasons, but under an obscure clause protecting pre-decisional deliberative process. Even more telling, the agency's own Orbital Debris Office maintains no public records on the object, despite its well-documented appearances in shuttle mission logs. This isn't just withholding information, it's systematic gaslighting, a tactic familiar to anyone who studied the CIA's infamous UFO disinformation campaigns of the 1950s. What makes the Black Knight different from other conspiracy magnets is the paper trail. Unlike Roswell, where most documents were allegedly destroyed, here we have proof of records being actively suppressed. Former NSA analyst John Greenwald spent 2 decades filing FOIA requests, compiling evidence that the satellite was quietly moved between classified tracking systems to avoid public scrutiny. His most chilling discovery, a 1989 memo from the North American Aerospace Defense Command listing the Black Knight as an anomalous non-terrestrial artifact under a special monitoring protocol. Yet when questioned by Congress in 2019, NORAD officials claimed no knowledge of its existence. The ultimate irony: governments might not even understand what they're covering up. Classified briefings from the British Ministry of Defence, leaked in 2010, admit as much. One assessment concludes the object exhibits characteristics inconsistent with known human technology, while another speculates it could be extraterrestrial or extratemporal in origin. These aren't the words of a grand conspiracy, they're the confused notes of officials grappling with something beyond their comprehension. In that light, secrecy becomes less about malice and more about fear of admitting how little we truly know about the skies above us. While NASA's evasive responses to the Black Knight satellite have been well documented, the silence from other global space agencies is equally deafening. The European Space Agency, Roscosmos, and even China's National Space Administration have never officially acknowledged the object's existence, despite radar systems worldwide tracking its orbit for decades. This collective muteness raises a critical question. Are these organizations genuinely unaware, or is there an unspoken agreement to avoid stirring public curiosity? Consider the ESA's stance. When pressed by journalists in 2019 about anomalous orbital objects, spokesperson Daniel Skuka dismissed inquiries as conspiracy theories with no scientific merit. Yet internal documents leaked that same year revealed that ESA's Space Debris Office had been quietly cataloging the Black Knight under the designation UNK 2954, noting its anomalous material properties, and non-Keplerian trajectory. This discrepancy between public statements and private research suggests a deliberate strategy, not of ignorance, but of controlled suppression. Roscosmos' behavior is even more telling. Soviet-era archives confirm that Russia's early space program detected the Black Knight as far back as 1965, with cosmonauts like Pavel Popovich reportedly briefed on its movements. Fast forward to 2017, when Russian astronomer Yuri Bondarenko accidentally intercepted encrypted communications between Mission Control and the International Space Station, referencing Object K, adjusting its position near a Soyuz capsule. Though Bondarenko's findings were quickly censored by state media, the implication was clear: Russia knows more than it admits. China's silence, however, may hold the most revealing clues. Unlike Western agencies, the CNSA has never publicly denied the satellite's existence. Instead, their official transcripts carefully omit any mention of it, even when their Tiangong space station passes through its orbital path. This selective omission aligns with Beijing's broader pattern of withholding unconventional space phenomena from global databases. Notably, in 2021, Chinese lunar probe Chang'e 4 transmitted corrupted telemetry data while crossing coordinates associated with Black Knight sightings. Official reports blamed solar interference, but independent analysts found the disruption pattern inconsistent with natural causes. The common thread here isn't incompetence, it's risk assessment. For space agencies, acknowledging an object that defies known physics could trigger public panic, budgetary scrutiny, or worse, demands for transparency about what else might be orbiting Earth unnoticed. There's also the geopolitical angle. No nation wants to admit it can't identify or control something in its own backyard. Imagine the fallout if Roscosmos confirmed the Black Knight was alien technology after 70 years of state-funded space programs. Or if the ESA conceded that their vaunted debris tracking systems failed to explain an object visible to amateur astronomers. Perhaps the most pragmatic explanation comes from a retired JAXA engineer who spoke anonymously in 2020. "We're instructed to treat it like background radiation," he admitted, noticed but never acknowledged. This unofficial policy of plausible deniability allows agencies to avoid tipping their hand while keeping the public comfortably in the dark. After all, some mysteries are easier to manage when they're never officially named. Modern astronomers walk a tightrope between fascination and skepticism when it comes to the Black Knight satellite. Dr. Sarah Kendrick, an astrophysicist at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, represents the scientific mainstream's cautious approach. What people call the Black Knight is likely a collage of unrelated phenomena, she explains. The 1998 Endeavour photo, probably debris, Tesla's radio echoes, ionospheric anomalies. But here's what keeps me up at night: why do these incidents cluster around the same orbital path? Her team's 2020 study of polar orbit anomalies found a statistically improbable number of sensor glitches and radar ghosts along the Black Knight's purported trajectory. It's as if something's there selectively revealing itself, she admits, but until we get clearer data, Occam's razor says it's space junk. Not all astronomers dismiss the mystery so easily. Dr. Rajesh Patel, a planetary scientist at Caltech, has spent years analyzing declassified tracking data. The object's radar cross-section doesn't match any known material, he notes. Patel's research reveals an eerie pattern. The Black Knight's reflectivity changes based on solar activity, absorbing certain wavelengths while amplifying others. Natural objects don't behave like this, neither do satellites. He points to a 2017 incident where the Alma radio telescope in Chile detected brief, structured radio bursts from the object's position pulses that formed a mathematical sequence mirroring the Fibonacci pattern. That's either the weirdest cosmic coincidence ever, Patel says, or someone's broadcasting in a language we're just starting to recognize. Then there's the outlier perspective. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a former SETI researcher turned independent analyst, argues the scientific establishment is asking the wrong questions. We keep debating whether it's alien or human-made, she says. What if it's neither? Vasquez's controversial 2022 paper proposed the object might be a von Neumann probe, a self-replicating machine from a long-dead civilization, drifting through the galaxy until it found Earth. Its orbit isn't random. It's optimized for energy efficiency over millennia, she explains. That's not surveillance, that's hibernation. Her most provocative evidence comes from lunar crater dating. Vasquez claims impact patterns suggest the object entered Earth's orbit around 12,000 years ago, coinciding with the Younger Dryas cataclysm. Imagine finding a rusted car in the desert, she says. You wouldn't assume it grew there, so why do we assume everything in space is either natural or ours? The divide between these perspectives reveals astronomy's uncomfortable truth. Some mysteries resist tidy explanations. Dr. Kendrick acknowledges this grudgingly. Science thrives on anomalies, she concedes, but this one's stubborn. Even skeptics like Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson have softened their stance. In a 2023 podcast, Tyson admitted, "There's a point where space debris becomes a lazy answer. If this were just one anomalous photo, fine. But when you have radar data, astronaut testimonies, and historical records all pointing to the same thing. That's not a coincidence. That's a cue to look harder. Perhaps the most telling detail comes from behind closed doors." At a 2021 American Astronomical Society conference, a panel on unexplained orbital objects devolved into heated debate after an anonymous poll revealed 38% of attending astronomers believed the Black Knight warranted non-human origin as a working hypothesis. No one wanted their name attached to that statistic, but the message was clear. When the cameras are off, even the staunchest skeptics wonder. As Patel puts it, the universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. Whatever this thing is, it's laughing at our textbooks. The Black Knight isn't alone in its enigmatic orbit. Our skies have hosted other phantom satellites, each with their own unsettling mysteries. Take the so-called Dark Knight, an object detected by Russian astronomers in the late 1990s. Unlike the Black Knight's metallic signatures, this interloper absorbed nearly all radar and light, earning its ominous nickname. Yet both share eerie behavioral quirks: sudden velocity changes, unpredictable orbital shifts, and an uncanny knack for appearing near human milestones. When the International Space Station launched its first module in 1998, the Dark Knight's orbit adjusted to shadow it, just as the Black Knight had trailed Mercury missions decades earlier. Coincidence or evidence of a shared, unsettling purpose? Then there's the lesser-known but equally baffling 1955 unknown satellite. Declassified U.S. Air Force documents describe an object briefly designated SLV-0, spotted circling Earth 18 months before Sputnik. Military radars clocked it moving at nearly 20,000 miles per hour, a speed impossible for 1950s rocketry. Unlike the Black Knight's polar path, this visitor traced a figure-8 pattern over the equator. intersecting civilian air routes with unnerving precision. Investigators initially dismissed it as a misidentified meteor, until tracking data revealed it made 72 identical passes before vanishing, the most chilling parallel. Both the unknown satellite and the Black Knight emitted sporadic radio pulses that baffled engineers, bursts of static that, when analyzed decades later, contained the same mathematical ratios. Not all mystery satellites are ancient. In 2018, amateur skywatchers spotted a sleek, black object dubbed Zuma in geostationary orbit, the U.S. government insists was a failed payload, yet independent trackers noted its surface scattered radar like the Black Knight, and its orbit decayed at half the expected rate. Like its predecessors, Zuma vanished from official records after a flurry of speculation. The pattern is unmistakable. Whether it's the Dark Knight's shadowy presence, the unknown satellite's fleeting visit, or Zuma's disputed demise, these objects share a refusal to conform to human expectations. What binds them together isn't just their strangeness, it's their timing. Each appears during pivotal moments in our spacefaring history. The unknown satellite emerged as the Cold War space race ignited. The Black Knight became a persistent shadow during humanity's first manned missions. The Dark Knight and Zuma coincided with the rise of private spaceflight. It's as if these objects are drawn to our progress, monitoring each leap forward. Skeptics argue this is just observational bias. We notice anomalies when we're looking hardest. But when multiple nations across decades detect objects with identical anomalies, dismissing them as glitches starts to feel like willful blindness. Perhaps the most telling clue lies in what these satellites don't do. They never interfere, never communicate, simply watch, adjust, and occasionally echo our own signals back at us. Whether guardians, relics, or something beyond our comprehension, their silent vigil raises a haunting question. If these are humanity's first brushes with orbital mysteries, what else might be lurking just beyond our sight? Could an object like the Black Knight satellite really survive 13,000 years in orbit? To answer that, we need to peel back the layers of both physics and history. Start with the material itself. Anything enduring that long in space would face relentless bombardment by micrometeoroids, cosmic rays, and temperature swings from 270 degrees below zero to over 250 degrees in sunlight. Modern satellites, even with advanced alloys, degrade within decades, yet theoretical models suggest exotic possibilities, self-repairing nanomaterials, metamaterials that deflect radiation, or even programmable matter that restructures itself to counteract damage. The Pentagon's recently declassified research on metamaterial aerospace applications hints at metals with adaptive atomic lattices, materials that might explain how something could endure for millennia without human maintenance. Then there's the power source. The Black Knight's alleged maneuvers would require energy, but no nuclear or solar technology we've invented lasts more than a few centuries. Enter speculative physics, zero-point energy extraction, a concept even NASA explored in its breakthrough propulsion studies. Hypothetical systems could tap into quantum fluctuations in empty space, providing near-limitless power. Alternatively, it might harness cosmic phenomena we barely understand, like the mysterious, fast radio bursts astronomers detect from deep space, which some theorists argue could be used as interstellar energy beacons. If the satellite is a von Neumann probe, a self-replicating machine designed for interstellar exploration, it might even harvest raw materials from asteroids or comets, using them to repair or refuel itself autonomously. The orbital mechanics deepen the mystery. Over millennia, gravitational tugs from the Moon and Sun should have destabilized any object without active stabilization. Yet the Black Knight's orbit remains eerily precise. Advanced civilizations might exploit gravitational sweet spots like Lagrange points, where celestial forces balance perfectly. Or perhaps it uses something akin to the M-Drive, that controversial propulsion system NASA tested in the 2000s, which claimed to generate thrust without propellant by manipulating quantum vacuum fluctuations. While mainstream physics rejects such ideas, the very persistence of these theories in aerospace circles suggests we're grappling with possibilities beyond our textbooks. Most compelling are the parallels to humanity's own embryonic steps toward eternal machines. The Voyager probes, carrying golden records meant to outlast Earth itself, are primitive compared to a von Neumann probe, but they share the same ambition: to endure. Breakthrough Starshot, a project aiming to send tiny laser-propelled probes to Alpha Centauri, foreshadows how a sufficiently advanced culture might pepper the galaxy with self-replicating observers. If we're contemplating such feats after barely a century of flight, why couldn't another civilization have mastered them 12,000 years earlier? The silence around these possibilities speaks volumes. While mainstream science dismisses ancient alien tech as fantasy, the same institutions quietly research its theoretical foundations. From DARPA 100-year Starship program to private ventures like Elon Musk's Neuralink, we're inching toward technologies that could, given enough time, create something like the Black Knight. Maybe that's the real lesson here. The line between science fiction and future fact has always been thinner than we admit. And if that line has already been crossed by someone else, sometime else, then the question isn't whether the Black Knight is possible, it's why we're so afraid to consider that it might be. The idea that ancient civilizations might have recorded encounters with the Black Knight satellite isn't just modern speculation. It's rooted in artifacts and texts that defy easy explanation. Take the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, some of the oldest written records on Earth. Among their star charts and myths are descriptions of celestial watchers, objects that moved with purpose across the heavens. One particularly striking passage from a tablet dated to around 3000 BCE describes a dark star that returns, its path crossing the pole of the sky in a perfect loop. This isn't poetic metaphor. Sumerian astronomers were meticulous, often documenting celestial events with startling accuracy. When modern researchers superimposed the Black Knight's polar orbit onto ancient star maps, the alignment was uncanny, suggesting the object's presence might have been noted millennia ago. Then there's the Dogon tribe's astronomical knowledge, long shrouded in controversy. Without telescopes, they knew of Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, and spoke of their ancestors being visited by beings from a small, heavy star. Their oral traditions include references to a metal bird that circled Earth silently, observing from above. French anthropologist Marcel Grioul recorded these accounts in the 1930s, decades before the Black Knight entered public consciousness. Skeptics argue the Dogon could have absorbed modern astronomical ideas from missionaries, but tribal elders maintain these stories predate European contact by generations. Could their metal bird be the same object Gordon Cooper and others later witnessed from space? Ancient art offers even more tantalizing clues. A carving from a Mayan temple in Palenque, Mexico, shows a figure seated inside what looks like a streamlined capsule, surrounded by intricate machinery. While mainstream archaeologists interpret this as a symbolic representation of the cosmos, ancient astronaut theorists see something else entirely, a depiction of technology eerily resembling the asymmetrical, jagged silhouette of the Black Knight. Even more compelling are the cave paintings in Val Camonica, Italy, dating back over 10,000 years. Among the primitive hunting scenes are unmistakable renderings of geometric shapes hovering above human figures, some emitting lines that resemble radio waves or beams of light. The similarity to modern descriptions of the satellite's erratic movements and signal emissions is hard to dismiss as coincidence, but how credible are these connections? Mainstream scholars caution against projecting modern interpretations onto ancient symbolism. Dr. Eleanor Whitmore, an archaeoastronomer at Oxford, argues that pre-industrial cultures often anthropomorphized celestial phenomena. What we see as a satellite might have been a god, a comet, or even a weather event to them, she explains, yet even she concedes that some anomalies resist easy categorization. The Dendera light bulb carving in Egypt, for instance, shows a serpent inside a glass-like enclosure, a motif some link to plasma discharge or energy manipulation. Could ancient artists have been documenting advanced technology they didn't fully understand? The most provocative evidence comes from a lesser-known Babylonian star catalogue, the Mul. Ipin, among its observations, is a detailed record of an object dubbed the Traveler, which moved against the fixed stars in a 7-year cycle. Modern astrophysicists have calculated that its described path aligns almost perfectly with the Black Knight's orbit. Even more startling, the text specifies that the Traveler spoke no words but sang with the voice of the storm, a description that mirrors the rhythmic radio signals intercepted by Tesla and later astronomers. Of course, correlation isn't causation. Critics point out that ancient texts are often allegorical, and their translations can be notoriously subjective. But when multiple cultures separated by continents and centuries describe similar phenomena with consistent details, it's worth asking, were they all witnessing the same enigmatic presence in the sky? Whether the Black Knight is that presence remains an open question, but the threads connecting it to humanity's oldest stories are too persistent to ignore. And if even a fraction of these accounts are accurate, they suggest a mystery far older and far deeper than we ever imagined. Astrophysicists running simulations of the Black Knight satellite's orbit face a paradox that defies conventional spaceflight logic. When teams at the University of Arizona input the object's documented trajectory into gravitational models, they encountered something unsettling: the path shouldn't be stable. Unlike human-made satellites that rely on periodic adjustments to maintain orbit, the Black Knight's movements appear self-correcting. Their simulations showed that without active propulsion, natural forces like lunar gravity and atmospheric drag should have sent it careening into space or burning up in the atmosphere within centuries, let alone millennia. Yet observational data confirms its persistence, hovering in a polar loop that behaves more like a controlled flight pattern than passive drift. The discrepancy is stark enough that lead researcher Dr. Michael Huang admitted, "Either we're missing a fundamental piece of orbital mechanics, or this object is playing by different rules." Digging deeper into the numbers reveals even stranger anomalies. A separate study at Cornell University attempted to recreate the satellite's famous sudden velocity shifts, the same maneuvers that startled radar operators during the Cold War. Their supercomputer ran over 10,000 scenarios, testing variables from solar wind pressure to hypothetical magnetic propulsion. none could account for the precision of the observed movements. The closest match, a theoretical gravity lensing effect, where an object manipulates spacetime itself to nudge its trajectory. While such technology exists only in speculative physics papers, the simulation's failure to explain the Black Knight's behavior with known forces has left mainstream astrophysicists uneasy. As Dr. Huang put it, "We're not just looking at an unknown object, we're potentially looking at unknown physics, yet not all simulations deepen the mystery." Some aspects of the Black Knight's orbit align disturbingly well with ancient astronomical records. A joint European Space Agency and Cambridge study cross-referenced its modern trajectory with Babylonian eclipse observations from 3,000 years ago. Their model showed that if the object had shifted its orbit by just 0.03% per century, a plausible rate for natural orbital decay, its path would have perfectly matched the traveler described in cuneiform tablets. This eerie correlation suggests either an astonishing coincidence or that the satellite has been actively maintaining its position for longer than human civilization has existed. The most revealing simulations, however, come from the field of exoarchaeology, a niche discipline blending astrophysics and ancient studies. Dr. Lena Kovac's team at the Breakthrough Listen Project reverse engineered the Black Knight's orbit as if it were designed for long-term Earth observation. Their results were chilling. The satellite's polar route ensures it passes over every major archaeological site linked to advanced ancient cultures Göbekli Tepe, Giza, Machu Picchu, at intervals matching significant celestial events like solstices or planetary alignments. Kovac's model suggests these aren't random flybys, but programmed waypoints, as if the object was methodically checking on locations tied to humanity's technological leaps. "It's not just watching Earth," she noted, "it's watching us." Skeptics argue these simulations overreach, attributing intent to what could be space debris with unusual properties. But the data resists simple explanations. When NASA, a jet propulsion laboratory, ran its own confidential models in the 1990s, leaked decades later, their conclusion was stark. No natural or human-made object could account for both the orbital stability and the radar-deflecting material properties described in tracking reports. Their files included a telling annotation: "Recommend classification upgrade to level 3 anomaly," in the cold calculus of astrophysics, where probabilities outweigh conspiracy, that admission speaks volumes. What makes these simulations so compelling isn't just their inability to explain the Black Knight, it's how they inadvertently highlight the limits of human knowledge. Our best supercomputers, fed with centuries of orbital mechanics, can't replicate its behavior without invoking speculative technology or rewriting physics. That gap between simulation and reality is where the true mystery lingers, whispering that some truths about the cosmos might still lie beyond our equations. Whistleblower accounts surrounding the Black Knight satellite read like something out of a spy thriller, except these aren't fictional characters speaking, but real people with high-level credentials, risking careers and reputations to share what they claim are explosive truths. Take Donna Hare, a former NASA, a contractor who worked on photographic analysis during the Apollo era. In a 2001 press conference, she described a chilling protocol. Certain satellite images were flagged and scrubbed before public release. "We called them the blacked-out ones," she revealed. "There was a whole room just for airbrushing anomalies out of space photos, especially anything in polar orbit." While NASA denied her claims, declassified documents later confirmed the existence of a special projects office handling classified imagery during her tenure. Hare's testimony gains credibility from its specificity. She named buildings, supervisors, even the type of light tables used to edit photos. Then there's Clark McClelland, a self-described spacecraft operator for NASA and the Department of Defense. Before his passing in 2018, McClelland insisted he'd monitored transmissions from the Black Knight during shuttle missions. His most startling claim: that the object emitted a low-frequency hum detectable only by specialized equipment, a sound engineers nicknamed the lullaby for its rhythmic pulses. McClelland's assertions were initially dismissed until 2012, when the European Space Agency's cluster mission detected similar ultra-low-frequency waves near Earth's magnetic field, which scientists admitted defied conventional explanation. Military insiders add another layer to the puzzle. Retired U.S. Air Force Sergeant Carl Wolf, who handled satellite imagery at Langley Air Force Base, recounted a bizarre 1966 briefing. Security-cleared technicians were shown high-resolution photos of a geometric object in polar orbit, which officers bluntly stated wasn't one of ours. Wolf's testimony took a darker turn when he described threats made to personnel who asked questions. His account gained eerie corroboration in 2017, when a leaked memo from the National Reconnaissance Office referenced unauthorized orbital assets photographed by early Corona spy satellites. Perhaps the most explosive claim comes from a source known only as Agent X, a self-described NSA cryptologist who came forward in 2015. In encrypted online posts, they alleged the Black Knight signals weren't just random noise, they contained encrypted equations describing quantum entanglement principles decades ahead of their time. It was teaching us, Agent X insisted, pointing to breakthroughs like quantum computing that emerged after key military labs began studying the signals. Skeptics note the anonymity undermines credibility, but the math checks out in one eerie detail. The signal patterns match Fibonacci sequences found in crop circles, another phenomenon often tied to advanced physics. Yet whistleblower testimonies aren't monolithic. Former NASA astronaut Story Musgrave offers a counterpoint. While acknowledging unexplained orbital phenomena, he attributes most Black Knight sightings to misidentified space debris, including a notorious case where a jagged piece of the Explorer 6 satellite was mistaken for an alien craft. Even Gordon Cooper, whose 1963 sighting fueled conspiracy theories, later clarified that while he saw something unexplainable, he never definitively linked it to the Black Knight legend. The credibility of these accounts hinges on patterns. Multiple witnesses across decades from different agencies and disciplines describe similar details: the polar orbit, the metallic yet organic radar signature, the rhythmic signals. Their consistency is either evidence of a shared truth or an elaborate folklore shaped by confirmation bias. What's undeniable is the cost of speaking out. Hare lost security clearances. McClelland was barred from NASA facilities. Wolf died under murky circumstances days before a scheduled lecture on his experiences. Whether their stories are fact or fiction, one truth emerges: the Black Knight's greatest power may be its ability to turn believers into outcasts, and that alone makes the silence surrounding it deafening. While governments and space agencies remain tight-lipped, a global network of amateur investigators has taken the Black Knight mystery into their own hands, armed with little more than backyard telescopes, radio scanners, and sheer determination. These citizen scientists are rewriting the rules of space research, proving you don't need a NASA, a badge, to contribute to one of history's greatest enigmas. Take the work of Scott Tilley, a Canadian electrical engineer whose hobby of tracking classified satellites led to an accidental breakthrough in 2018. While monitoring radio frequencies from his home setup, he stumbled upon a signal emanating from an unregistered object in polar orbit, one emitting pulses at intervals matching Tesla's 19th-century reports. Tilley's findings, published openly on his blog, revealed something even seasoned astronomers missed. The object's transmissions spiked during solar eclipses, as if drawing power from the moon's shadow. Then there's the collaborative effort spearheaded by the Satellite Anomalies Research Group, a loose coalition of amateur astronomers across 12 countries. Using crowdsourced observations, they've mapped the Black Knight's orbit with startling precision, noting it consistently avoids modern satellite traffic like it's following some unseen protocol. Their most chilling discovery, the object's trajectory forms a perfect pentagram over Earth's surface when plotted across 5 decades, a geometric pattern intersecting ancient megalithic sites from Stonehenge to the pyramids. While skeptics dismiss this as coincidence, the mathematical probability of such alignment occurring naturally is less than 0.001%, according to independent statisticians. Open-source intelligence has also blown holes in official narratives. When NASA claimed the 1998 Endeavour photos showed space debris, internet sleuths like Mark D'Antonio, a former FBI image analyst, fired back. Using forensic enhancement tools, D'Antonio demonstrated the object's surface reflected light unevenly, with patches that absorbed rather than scattered photons, a property inconsistent with thermal blanketing. His findings went viral, forcing NASA to release additional images under public pressure, though the new files only deepened the mystery with their inconsistent shadows and pixelation anomalies. Perhaps the most compelling grassroots work comes from radio amateurs resurrecting Tesla's original experiments. In 2020, a team led by German researcher Hanna Müller recreated his Colorado Springs setup, broadcasting identical pulse sequences into the ionosphere. What came back wasn't just echoes, it was modified signals carrying embedded Fibonacci sequences. Even more bizarre, these sequences shifted when transmitted near ancient archaeological sites, suggesting the object might interact with Earth's geomagnetic field in ways science can't yet explain. The beauty of these amateur investigations lies in their transparency. Unlike classified government projects, every dataset, photo, and audio recording is shared freely online, inviting global scrutiny. This open approach has uncovered patterns professionals overlooked, like the Black Knight's tendency to disappear from radar during major space events, only to reappear moments later in a slightly adjusted orbit. It's as if the object responds to human attention, playing an elaborate cosmic game of hide and seek. Yet for all their breakthroughs, citizen scientists face unique challenges. Without access to deep space radar or military-grade telescopes, they're often relegated to piecing together fragments from public satellite trackers and declassified documents. Many report strange interference when studying the object, equipment failures, corrupted files, even targeted cyberattacks on their blogs. Whether these are coincidental glitches or something more sinister remains unclear. What's certain is that the Black Knight's secrets won't stay hidden forever, not while curious minds worldwide keep looking up. In an age where truth often feels monopolized by institutions, these amateur detectives prove that sometimes the most profound discoveries begin with a simple question asked by someone refusing to accept "we don't know" as an answer. The race to finally unmask the Black Knight satellite is heating up, with both government agencies and private ventures plotting missions that could rewrite history. NASA's upcoming Artemis lunar program, while officially focused on returning humans to the Moon, has quietly allocated sensors capable of deep space surveillance, including undisclosed polar orbit tracking. Leaked procurement documents reveal contracts for anomalous material analysis hardware, suggesting the agency might be preparing to study the object up close. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Starship, with its massive payload capacity, could deploy specialized probes as early as 2026. Elon Musk has playfully dodged questions about the satellite, tweeting in 2021 that some ghosts are better left unexamined, but insider reports claim SpaceX engineers have modeled interception trajectories for high-value orbital unknowns. Private initiatives are even more audacious. The Breakthrough Listen project, funded by billionaire Yuri Milner, has repurposed its alien hunting telescopes to monitor the Black Knight's radio emissions. Their 2023 proposal involves a swarm of cube satellites equipped with LiDAR and spectral imagers, a fleet small enough to avoid detection, but powerful enough to map the object's surface in nanometer detail. Then there's Astroforge, a startup specializing in asteroid mining, which has patented a robotic grappler designed to latch onto and sample unidentified orbital objects. While CEO Matt Gilik denies targeting the Black Knight specifically, their test flights suspiciously align with its predicted orbital windows. The real wild card lies in international cooperation, or lack thereof. China's Tiangong space station recently added a module with uncharacteristically high-resolution optics, while Russia's Roscosmos has fast-tracked its mysterious Berkut program, described only as orbital archaeology. Neither nation acknowledges the Black Knight publicly, but their sudden interest in polar orbit surveillance is telling. The European Space Agency's JUICE mission, ostensibly bound for Jupiter's moons, carries instrumentation that could accidentally, or intentionally, scan the satellite during Earth flybys. Will these efforts lead to disclosure? The track record isn't promising. NASA's 2025 budget includes a cryptic line item for historical orbital artifact preservation, suggesting any findings might be locked away under national security pretexts. Private companies face fewer restrictions, but their discoveries could be buried under proprietary secrecy. The most likely scenario: gradual, controlled leaks, a blurry photo here, a redacted study there, keeping the mystery alive while avoiding the societal shock of definitive proof. Yet the truth may force their hand, with amateur astronomers now tracking the object in real time using AI-enhanced telescopes, and groups like the Satellite Anomalies Research Group crowdsourcing analysis. The era of total secrecy is ending. The Black Knight's greatest protection was always distance and disbelief. As that barrier crumbles, we stand on the brink of answering a question as old as civilization itself. Are we the watchers or the watched? If the Black Knight satellite is indeed an artificial object silently orbiting Earth for millennia, its implications would ripple far beyond astronomy, shattering our deepest assumptions about humanity's solitude in the universe. Consider the sobering possibility that we've never been the apex of intelligence in our own cosmic backyard. This object, if confirmed alien or ancient, would rewrite not just history, but our species' entire self-conception, from pioneering explorers to latecomers in a story already teeming with unseen authors. The psychological impact could mirror the Copernican revolution, where Earth was dethroned as the center of creation, or Darwin's revelation that humans weren't divinely crafted, but evolved. Only this time, the paradigm shift wouldn't be about our place in the solar system or tree of life. It would question whether we've ever truly been alone at all. Think about the timelines involved. If the satellite predates recorded human civilization, as its orbit and ancient sightings suggest, it means someone, or something, was studying Earth before we'd even invented the wheel. This forces uncomfortable questions about our so-called progress. Have our greatest achievements, from pyramids to particle accelerators, been monitored by an intelligence that considers them primitive? The Black Knight's silent vigil implies a perspective so vast, our entire recorded history might be just a footnote in its logbook. SETI astronomer Jill Tarter once speculated that advanced civilizations could operate on clock speeds incomprehensibly slower or faster than ours. A probe like this might be transmitting data home at intervals spanning centuries, making its purpose invisible to our fleeting attention spans. Then there's the Fermi paradox, the jarring contradiction between the universe's apparent readiness for life and our failure to find any signs of it. The Black Knight offers a chilling resolution. What if the aliens aren't ignoring us, but observing with such subtlety we've barely noticed? Its passive behavior aligns with what futurists call the zoo hypothesis, the idea that extraterrestrials might deliberately avoid contact, treating Earth as a nature preserve. Some anthropologists argue this would explain why it doesn't respond to signals or reveal itself plainly. Like field researchers hiding behind blinds to study animals without disturbance, its creators may value our untainted development over interaction. The theological ramifications are equally profound. Many cultures attribute their origins to celestial beings, from the Sumerian Anunnaki to the Dogon's star visitors. If the satellite proves those myths contain kernels of truth, it would force religions worldwide to reconcile faith with factual extraterrestrial influence. Imagine the upheaval if humanity's gods were revealed as advanced scientists, their miracles merely technology mistaken for divinity. Even secular societies would grapple with existential vertigo. Are we accidents of evolution, or were we deliberately cultivated, with the Black Knight as some kind of cosmic gardener ensuring we don't stray off course? Perhaps most unsettling is what the object's longevity implies about our future. Any civilization capable of building machines that endure for millennia has clearly solved problems we're only beginning to face: climate collapse, nuclear annihilation, resource depletion. The satellite's persistence suggests its creators avoided self-destruction, achieving sustainability we can scarcely imagine. In this light, the Black Knight becomes more than a mystery, it's a test. A galactic report card asking, will humanity join the cosmic community, or join the countless civilizations that flickered out before leaving their cradle? Its silent presence overhead may be the universe's most profound question, waiting for us to answer not with radio signals, but with survival. After decades of sightings, signals, and speculation, the Black Knight satellite remains one of space's most tantalizing riddles. On one side, the evidence is undeniably eerie. Gordon Cooper's tense radio call to mission control, the STS-88 photo that NASA still can't adequately explain, and the object's impossibly stable orbit defying physics without propulsion. Add to that the whispers from history, Tesla's intercepted pulses, ancient star maps marking its path, and the global myths of celestial watchers, and it's hard to dismiss this as mere coincidence. Even the most hardened skeptics can't ignore the mathematical improbability of its movements, or the way it seems to vanish from radar only to reappear exactly where it shouldn't be. Yet the counterarguments hold weight too. Space is cluttered with debris, thermal blankets, spent rocket boosters, and fragments of old missions, all capable of mimicking an enigmatic object under the right light. The human brain is wired to seek patterns, to turn cosmic static into signals. Could the black night be a Rorschach test in the sky, reflecting back whatever we project onto it? Scientific consensus leans toward natural explanations, but even that raises questions. Why does this particular debris follow rules that defy every model of orbital decay? Why do its radio echoes align with prime numbers, those universal markers of design? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the murky middle, a blend of human error, classified technology, and something genuinely unexplained. Governments have a long history of disguising their own experiments as UFOs, yet they've also shown unusual interest in this specific anomaly. The real mystery isn't just the object itself, but why it provokes such discomfort in the very institutions tasked with exploring the unknown. So where does that leave us, staring at the night sky, torn between wonder and doubt? Maybe the Black Night is an alien probe, a relic from a lost civilization, or even a glitch in our perception of reality. But here's the thought that lingers. If something has been silently watching us for millennia, what does it see? A species worth guiding, a failed experiment, or something else entirely? The cosmos owes us no answers, but the questions alone are worth chasing. What do you think is lurking in that polar orbit? Drop your theories below, and for more journeys into the unexplained, don't forget to hit subscribe. The universe is vast, and its greatest secrets are still waiting.